John. Boy Scout had Malzahn and Sandy Coates. He's 6'5", okay? Malzahn.
Mr. Grehalva, welcome.
How's it going?
Good. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Well, what we do is we'd like you to take 2 or 3 minutes and just tell us about yourself and your interest in applying.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much. My name is Sean Grehalva. Now to start off with, this is the future that we've got right here. It's not because it's light, it's not because it's aesthetically pleasing, and it's not just because it is a good way to deliver a school lesson plan. This really represents the future of good quality, open and interconnected, high quality governance. A future that is inclusive, one that is open, and one that is proactive. Now, I'm a millennial. It's taken me a long time to come to grips with that, mainly because there's a connotation there. The second you say that or you get identified with it, it seems like you get a lot of groans and eye rolls, and mainly because of that connotation. Now, what this means, though, is that I grew up around the internet, really grew up on the internet. I live and breathe social media every day, and I know what's appropriate and what isn't. And I know how to build a community through and on an online presence. Now, few people today have the desire or the ability to attend in-person meetings like this, but they do want to be included. They know that they have a voice, and they want to be part of the discussion and be part of the decision-making process. And we need to move towards a model that allows for soliciting feedback through more outlets so we can tackle the big issues that face our city and that face our schools, all while building a shared vision for success. Now, in the coming months and years, we're going to need to talk about charter schools. With the recent passage of the Alabama Charter School Bill, it's something that is on our doorstep, and it's definitely time that we have the discussion. We also need to talk about increasing our anti-bullying stance so that all our children have a safe place that they can attend. We will also need to talk about starting an anti-sexual assault program so that our students, after they leave our halls, will have the tools to keep themselves safe in the future. Now, if we do this, we will create a future where the profile of Hoover City Schools is increased across the nation and especially in our state. When my wife and I got married, the decision to move to Hoover was not even a question to discuss. It was already a set thing. I came from the Oak Mountain school system myself and always had an eye for the quality that Hoover City Schools imparted to its residents. There was a conscious choice to go to Hoover City Schools due to the high quality of programming offered here. Now that I have a 1-year-old little boy who is running around outside like a crazy man, the desire for me to be involved is greater than ever. Now, I want to be a part of shaping his educational future, not just for him, but for all residents of Hoover. And it's something that I think we have come to understand, that we have a standard that has to be maintained. And I would just challenge that to see if we could increase that standard across the nation and across the state. I have a passion for service and an understanding that with leadership does come the requirement to make tough decisions. I want to use my skills to continue the legacy that Hoover schools have already built up, and I want to expand upon that. To foster a school system that in 4 short years, when I send my child off to our kindergartens here, I'll be able to look at him and tell him that he's going into a great school system, a great school, and he's absolutely going to love it. Now, I wanted to thank you very much for the ability to sit in front of you today. My name is Sean Grehalva, and if there's any questions, I'd love to answer them.
John, do you have any ideas how many students we have in our school system?
Just shy of 14,000. The number that I saw was 13,884.
You know how many schools we have in the school system?
17.
What's the annual budget approximately in the school system?
Just short of 168 million.
Okay. You know how much approximate reserves the school system enjoys?
90 to 100,000. Sorry, 100 million.
Yeah. Okay. It's a little bit of difference.
I was like, wow, yeah, that's a departure.
What do you see as the role of a school board member?
Well, it has multiple roles. The school board is there to select a superintendent, which will be coming up soon. We also have reviewing and approving the budget, looking into the policies, goals, accountability standards. Also, we're there to promote a more community involved atmosphere with the parents, the teachers, and the students themselves. And there's, some more catch-all stuff. I think they put it other requirements as needed under state law.
What do you see as the role of school superintendent?
He is the captain of the ship, or the admiral, if you will.
Well, that guy's just a brownie points.
I'm trying. So he's piloting everything, making sure that everybody's keeping up to their standards, everybody is meeting their goals, and he's the one that is managing the more day-to-day actions.
Okay. Other questions from the council?
Mr. President,
Mr. Green?
you had mentioned, please describe your vision of community outreach to the school board, and you say that you would like to seek out centers of influence of a variety of demographics. Would you elaborate on that for me?
In my previous position at the bank, I currently work for a local bank, I was placed in our branch system and had to reach out to a variety of social and business groups. In doing that, at the time, I did have some connection with some of our minority groups, specifically a lot of Hispanic and African American outreach. Once I'm certain that the landscape has changed since I did move out of that position, but it didn't take me very long to get in there the first time. I'm sure I can get back in there quickly the second time.
You also mentioned that there's a need for engaging and including more members of our community. Do you have any thoughts on how you can do that?
Well, there's a number of different ways to do that. I'm a huge fan of online connection, obviously. I'm a social media hound. That's certainly a great way to go about that. Facebook groups, making sure that there are email lists, and making sure that there is interaction there is a good way to do that. I believe that I'm not sure the exact capabilities and requirements or restrictions based in law, but if there's a possibility of possibly streaming these meetings, I think that will go a very, very long way to bridging those gaps.
Are you currently involved, or have you been involved in any organizations associated with Hoover City Schools, volunteering in the schools, PTO, et cetera?
Nothing like that, no sir. I am part of our church student ministry outreach. We do have children that have gone to Hoover City Schools as a part of that, but nothing specific like PTO.
What about school board meetings? Have you been able to attend any of those?
I have not attended any of those. I have been keeping up to date through the minutes, and that's really why I want to see if there's a way. I don't have all the answers, but I want to see if there's a way that we can get it a little bit more in depth with those.
Thank you.
President?
Yes, sir.
Sean, in your application, you state that you would push for anti-bullying education, prevention, and also for sexual assault education. You only have so many limited hours in the day.
Absolutely.
What is it that you would give up? Or how would you tie this into the curriculum, with the curriculum stacked as the way it is today?
Well, I definitely don't already have all the answers. What I would like to do is speak with the new superintendent whenever they do come in. I remember when I was in schools, there were often times where there may be school-wide assemblies and the like. I was thinking that there would be a great opportunity there to at least get out the message. It may not be something that each individual student has a face-to-face with a teacher or other staff member, but certainly the ability to get the message out there, and hopefully when they do interact with these situations where it may be pertinent, to have pulled on that knowledge that they'll be able to at that time.
What financial background do you have in order to deal with the budget deficit
Now, I've never worked with a budget this large, $167 million.
Just zeros.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Well, I did previously work in personal finance, so that was something that was on a far smaller scale through our branch network. I'm also part of a dealer, an automotive dealership unit at the bank, where we do deal with far, far larger numbers. Myself personally, I'm not part of our budgeting process, but I have had the opportunity to sit in on some of those meetings and discuss the specifics, the line items and the like. However, it's really a growth opportunity for me. It's something I'd love to be able to pick up some of those skills from the people that are already on the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Sean, let's talk a little bit more about charter schools if we can.
Okay.
As you know, it's been a hot topic for the last couple of years in the state. And of course, the legislature 2 weeks ago passed the bill. I suspect it's going to be more prevalent in areas where we have failing schools throughout Alabama. As you know, we don't have any failing schools in Hoover. So by talking about charter schools in Hoover, are there certain schools you're looking at or certain populations that you think that would appeal more to?
As far as the specifics like that, I think there are a lot of questions that do need to be asked to our community. There are areas that have in the past questions have been raised as far as the specific schools. As far as every detail like that, it's certainly something that would need to be discussed with the community at large. I think this is something that is such a new idea for us that it is something that all of us will need to be a part of.
Any questions from the council?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Thank you for coming in today. In one of your answers, you talk about what your vision would be. I think you've touched on it just a little bit. But explain to us how you would seek out centers of influence in a variety of demographics to improve what's going on with the Hoover City schools. Exactly what are you talking about?
Well, a previous place that I've started was with the local archdiocese. I was able to connect with a number of the actual archdiocese staff members and pastors and fathers there. That's certainly a good way to start. Another is with the local churches. A lot of these people are very, very connected with their church groups, at least as a pathway into finding these specific groups. Now, it could be in the past they were Appleseed, HICA, La Casa, Catholic Social Services, all very directly led me to these larger groups where we were able to find an audience. At the time, it was financial education and assisting as far as what would certain legal requirements be. With this, we're looking to have a discussion, so it's going to be a little bit different, but certainly calling up old contacts and dusting off the phone book will be a good way to start that.
Specifically, what kind of contributions do you think that this is going to make to the board and the superintendent that they can understand and evaluate whether or not to implement them or not? Exactly what do you think can be accomplished with it?
Well, I think that any one group may, they're never going to see just their vision realized. I think outreach just for outreach's sake is a very, very good goal to achieve. Just simply having these communities that are previously not really well connected, just bringing them into the fold so we can sit down and talk it out in a kind of one-on-one or one into a group manner, that will have its own benefits. And in addition to that, they may have ideas or options that we've not yet considered. Fortunately, I can't really speculate on what those may be, but it's certainly good to ask.
What would be your approach to dealing with the various budget issues that come up annually for the school board?
Well, As far as the specifics, like the deficit, is that what you're?
Just your method of dealing with the budget,
Mhm.
your strategy for dealing with the budget.
Well, it's something that we definitely have to wind that number down to zero as far as the deficit first. Now, beyond that, we have to maintain a quality that we already have, and it's in my vision. I believe that we have a possibility of moving that quality needle up, so we can potentially start raising housing rates and property values within the city, with the trickle-down effect being that with those increased property values, you'd be looking at increased property value or property taxes. As for individual line items, everything needs to be looked into at a very, very close scale, and I think that we are here to serve the community and making sure we're good stewards of their money.
Thank you. Additional questions? Hearing none, we appreciate you coming in. We appreciate your application. Your
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, have a good day.
Thank you very much, sir. Hello.
They get confused a lot, I'm told. They get confused a lot.
The other Stephanie Turner?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. We have 2 kids with the same names too, so I think it's really.
They live in Carisbrook, though, the other right here.
We appreciate you coming, and what we'd like to do is give you 2 or 3 or 4 minutes to tell us about yourself and your application.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you've seen I am a professor at Alabama in the nursing department. I've been there for 3 years. We've been in Hoover for 3 years. When I took that job, we moved to Hoover instead of Tuscaloosa because I like the school system here better. And it's not that bad of a commute for me, about maybe 50 minutes in the morning. But I teach full-time there. I have 4 kids in the school system. My oldest is a junior right now in high school, and my youngest is in the 3rd grade. So we're in 3 different schools right now.
Junior?
Yes. Oh, I am. I feel it.
Okay. Do you have any idea how many students we have in the Hoover school system citywide?
Oh, I know it's a lot because, like I said, my oldest is in Hoover High, and it is humongous. But I don't know. I know it's a lot, though.
Okay. Do you know how many schools we have in the Hoover school system?
Oh, total? I know there's 2 high schools. There are, let's see, 3 or 4 middle schools, and then elementary schools. There's more than that. I'm thinking maybe 6, 7, something like that.
Okay. And you know what the annual budget of the school system is?
What the annual budget of the total school system, I don't.
Okay. You know how much cash reserves the school system has?
I read something about that, that Hoover does have more of a reserve than some of the other school systems in Alabama, but I don't know the exact number of how much.
Okay. What do you understand the role of the school board member to be?
Well, just to work with the superintendent closely to make sure the communication is good between the board and the superintendent, to write policies, to examine policies of the school systems, and just to make sure there's good communication between the citizens of the community and the board.
Okay. Questions from the council?
Yes, Mr. President. Under full disclosure, Turner is my daughter's neighbor.
Okay.
And she reports that she's an excellent neighbor, although that has nothing to do with crime.
Thank
I
you.
wouldn't say that.
Have you been involved with the schools as far as in the PTO or volunteer or any school board meetings, any of that?
Not yet. My job has kept me pretty busy, but just recently I have had some breaks on that. Thank goodness, finally. So I'll be getting more involved now.
Okay. And speaking of your job, will you have time to attend the meetings, and sometimes they're called meetings
Yes,
in the evening or in the day?
yes. Well, the day depends on the day of the week, because I am teaching on Mondays usually, but the rest of the week's pretty flexible.
I think they're pretty good at trying to work it out for everybody.
Yeah, and my job now is real flexible, so I don't even go in to work in Tuscaloosa except for on one day a week usually.
That's right.
Good. All right, thank you. Okay, that's all I asked. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. President, if I could, you had a lot of various responses to the individual questions that were all good, but what was the main catalyst that caused you to apply this year rather than last year, next year?
Well, I mean, I felt like last year I hadn't really been here long enough, and we've been here 3 years now, and so I've been paying a little bit more attention this past year. And like I said, having 4 kids in the system and just hearing all the things about the zoning and the buses, and it just got me really interested in everything. And then, you know, I'm in education. I've been in education for 12 years. In higher ed, I've taught all walks of life, university, community college, technical school. So I kind of see what kids need coming in to those areas. And so that's another main reason. I just have a passion for education in general.
People have talked about charter schools today. Do you think the Hoover system should offer a vocational option?
I think it's a good idea. I think I'm a strong proponent in workforce development just because I've been involved in some of those areas with the community college system. So, you know, I would love for all my kids to go to universities, but I know that's not meant for every child. So I really believe in having vocational. I really do.
Thank you,
Mr. President, so you get to go to work in that brand new nice nursing school
Yes,
down in
it's
Tuscaloosa.
beautiful. I love it.
have some familiarity with it, but tell us a little bit about your finance background and working with budgets and your capability to understand financial statements and all that.
Well, to be honest, I haven't done a lot of that. My end has mostly been teaching and counseling students and looking at transcripts and that end of it. So finances is probably not my strong suit. But I do have a research background, and that's a big, huge part of my job. So if I don't know the answer, I can find it, and I'm a quick learner. So that part of it, you know, I will ask all the questions I need to ask.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions?
What, would you identify what you believe are the critical issues facing the Hoover City Schools, and how would you go about formulating solutions to those issues?
Okay. Well, I know just reading articles and things that finances is, of course, a big thing in Alabama with all the cuts and everything, and I know that's probably at the top of everyone's main concern. You know, I don't have the answers, but I'm good at talking to people that can give me advice or suggestions, and I think a big part of this would be talking to the community at large, talking to people who are professionals in that area to give advice, and I'm real good at organizing and assimilating answers and advice. So I think from my standpoint, talking to people in the community and just talking amongst the board to come up with solutions would be my idea of it.
Mr. President, if I may.
Yes, sir. Mr. Lyon.
Dr. Turner, thank you for applying and for your
Sure.
interest. I've asked this of other applicants who have a background in education. You know the makeup of our current board, and of course our previous superintendent, we had no members over the last year who were educators themselves and had no background in education. How important is it, or is it important, that we consider an educator to help run a $160 million education business?
I think it's really important. I mean, like I said, my strong suit's not finances, but I do have that educational background. Like I said, I've taught in the college system for 12 years, so I have knowledge of that. I've written policies and procedures in the community college level, so that's my strong area. I'm also a nurse, and so I think having someone with a health background is good too, because I know, you know, healthcare is important as well, and some of those policies impact students also.
Sure. Other questions? Real quick, you said a lot of very appropriate things. If you are selected, one of the things that we're going to get hit with is the length of time you've lived
think that sometimes it takes someone with fresh eyes to come into a situation and look at things, maybe from an outsider's perspective. I know on committee members I've served on at the college, that's been a good thing to have someone come in that's not, so grounded there that they can't see things that are going on. So that's how I would respond. That sometimes having a fresh face is good.
You know April Weaver, state representative?
Do I know her personally?
Do you know her?
I know of her, but I don't know her personally.
You remind me a lot of her.
Really?
Dr. Turner, talk to us about leadership roles that you've had in the last 5 years.
Okay, in the last 5 years. Well, first I'll start with Wallace State, because I was there for several years before I went to Alabama, and I was over all of the second year nursing program, or the nursing classes. So I was basically serving as an assistant director in that program. So I handled, a lot of students that went through the program. I was their person for that whole second year that they would come talk to. That's probably the biggest leadership role I've had in the past few years. At Alabama, starting out as a new professor, they don't give you a whole lot of roles, but they have put me in charge of a committee or two from time to time there. But that's pretty much all I've done at Alabama so far.
Thank you. Any additional questions from the council? Hearing none, I want to thank you for coming in this afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey there. Hello.
Good afternoon, sir. If you'd like to start by giving us 3 or 4 minutes on your background and your interest in this position.
Sure. I guess I tried to list some of the main reasons why I applied. First one, I guess I consider I'm passionate about the school district. I lived here from '94 to 2003, and in the last 3 years, my oldest daughter, who's at Auburn now, went to Gwynn Elementary, and liked everything about it, liked the teachers, liked the educators, and from '03 to really to 2012, we lived all across the United States, and I never found a school district that really, quite honestly, compared to Hoover. Lived in Illinois, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Texas, and there was never a doubt when we moved back if we got the opportunity where we were going to live. We were going to live in Hoover, and that's where we came back. And I have 3 daughters now in Hoover. I've got 2 6-year-olds in kindergarten, believe it or not, and one in 5th grade. I just have a tremendous amount of respect for what's been accomplished here. I mean, I remember when it started and broke off from Jefferson County to be able to kind of build what was here. So, I mean, and I know a lot of people across all areas. My daughter's heavily involved in a lot of sports, so I know people from Spain Park and River Chase, and a lot of those, and Berry Middle and Gwynn and Greystone, and a lot of those people said, hey, we really think that you could help out. So that's sort of it's just been a really good area to be in. And like I said, when we moved back here, there was never a doubt what city we were going to move to and where we were going to move. I guess the second reason, there's sort of been a lot of negativity around the school district, and I'm not of that opinion. I don't think that you can call something bad, deceitful, people up to something, and really solve a lot of the problems you have. And I'm not of that opinion. Does the district have issues? Absolutely, absolutely. But I don't think that any of them aren't solvable. And I guess that's the next reason I decided to apply. If you read my application, I worked for 36 years with U.S. Steel. I solved a lot of these same type of issues. Granted, not in a school board or a education setting, but I managed large workforces with lots of issues. You've probably, if you've grown up around here, the U.S. Steel industry has struggled, learned to do a lot with less, take budgets and really do more with less. I dealt with a lot of workforce issues. I've dealt with hiring and dismissing and reductions and things like that. So I think that the large budgets that I manage could really help. I know we have budget issues here. So my overall background, I've dealt with a lot of legislators. I've dealt with a lot of business owners. I've dealt with and reached out to post-secondary education in an attempt to try to partner with them in my time with U.S. Steel. So I just feel like that I can really help. And, you know, at my stage of my life, I only engage myself in things that mean a lot to me, and they have to mean a lot to me, and they also have to be things that I can be a benefit to. You know, I guess I don't need to do something. I need to do something that means a lot to me. And I guess the last reason I applied is that, you know, I think I understand the role of a school board member. You know, we've got to hire a strong superintendent, and that's really the first task, I think, of the school board. And they should, that superintendent, whoever they are, should be really the linchpin to deal with you folks in the state and the federal and the business community and all. And you know, I have the time and the passion. I'm retired. I have the time and passion to really, I think, put a lot of effort into this. And I would intend to spend a lot of time out in the community, a lot of time out in the school district, and you know, that's just been my blessing in life to be at this stage now to where I can have that opportunity. I think it's really important to keep people informed. And I have obviously the view of a parent that, hey, I want to be informed and I want to keep people informed. And you know, I look at these issues at the Hoover School District not as a negative, as a positive. I mean, there's a lot of failing and shrinking school districts that don't have these issues. But just like when you grow a company, you face a lot of different issues, and we are facing a bunch of issues. But they're issues that is a complement to the city and a complement to the school district, because people want to live here. People want their children to go to the school district. So we've grown, and we're dealing with larger issues, and I think that I can help solve some of those issues. I've dealt with some of them with the organic growth of U.S. Steel and some of the assignments I've had. So I guess in summary, that's kind of, you know, I said about 3 minutes, hopefully that was it, as to, you know, why did I decide to apply and why did I, you know, why am I here? So hope I've expressed it fairly well.
You know approximately how many students we have in the Hoover school system?
I believe it's about 17,000, I believe.
You know how many schools we have?
Not off the top of my head, I do not know that.
You know approximately what the annual budget of our schools is?
It was, God, I didn't prep up on that, but I know that the Hoover schools were probably, let's see, you guys were 100 million. You know, I'm not going to quote a number. I had that number very well, but I didn't bring it with me. No.
Do you know how much cash reserves the school system?
I believe it's around $7 or $8 million, I believe.
Between 84 million and 100 million.
Pardon me?
It's between 84 million.
Okay, well, again, I didn't go over those numbers, and I apologize for that.
What do you see as the role of the school board member?
Well, the school board member, and again, that's what I say, I think they have to be the ones that support the school superintendent, and the school superintendent has to be I guess the conduit to go to other groups, and the school board member really should be an advocate for the students, number one, and then obviously for the educators also and the administrators. You know, the role of a school board member, I respect the chain of command. You know, the school superintendent is the one that's going to be dealing with the issues out there. The school board members should be the ones that deal with helping the school superintendent make decisions.
What do you see as the role of the superintendent?
Well, as I said, I think, you know, as a leader of an organization, you know, an organization takes on the values and beliefs of a leader, and I think that the superintendent, obviously there's some very poignant issues that the new superintendent here would have to deal with, but the superintendent, in my mind, is the leader of the entire organization that deals and functions with outside organizations, as well as is a leader of, say, the employees, just like any plant manager or general manager would be at a U.S. Steel plant. So.
I noticed you were from Keysport High School. Did you ever get to meet Dick Grove?
Yes, actually I did. I played his golf course too, whatever. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm impressed.
No, his brother Marty Grove used to work with my dad.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, he and Bill Mazeroski had a golf course.
Did you ever work at Braddock?
I did. I worked there for 3 months. I got transferred from Minnesota to Edgar Thompson and worked there for 3 months. And they said, "Oh, by the way, we just bought a company in Texas. We'd like you to go there." So that was a tough sell for wasn't a tough sell for my wife, but anyway, it's just an interesting time. It's the oldest plant in U.S. Steel and probably the best workforce we have. We have a lot of good ones. Pardon me?
My dad worked there for years.
Is that right? Yeah, it was. I mean, that's a case where you go there and you know what you know and you know what you don't know, and you sit back and listen and let them tell you what they need to do. So I wish they could have stayed longer, but my time.
I noticed you were the plant manager in Texas. Do they still have general superintendents?
Well, I'll tell you what. General superintendents, plant managers, general managers, I just got to tell you, they sort of, I'll use the word play with those names, but yes, they do. They have general managers and plant managers, but they're called general managers now, and you can be a plant manager and general manager and just.
Used to be called general superintendent.
Correct. When I first started, that's correct. General superintendent, you're right. So, but it's general manager now.
Okay.
That's the same as general superintendent.
Questions from the council?
Mr. Quirk, you have been an outspoken advocate for additional funding for the school system from the city. Say you were a school board member over the last 2 years, you'd be working with a superintendent who really disagreed with your stance. Has not sought more funding, in fact has publicly said he didn't need more funding. How would you as a board member reconcile that and work with a superintendent that you vehemently disagree with?
As I said, that's where it's important, and I want to make that distinction. The chain of command, that's the superintendent's job. At that point, I have to change my role. I have to find other opportunities to help support the superintendent, maybe gain additional funding, and I have to give them data that they can come to city, state, federal leaders. My role, not that I have a role, but I mean my role as a citizen, it changes because the superintendent has to be the ones that will support that. But I always deal in facts, so I have to look at facts and say, hey, is there a way we can do that? And we've done a lot of that with U.S. Steel, obviously, again, in the private sector versus public sector. But I would say the role is to explore all opportunities and benchmark maybe with others. And what have they done? Because a lot of school districts are facing funding crisis. But my role as that would have to change, and it would have to be the superintendent, because that's, again, they're the leader of the organization. They have to come and sit in front of business leaders and you folks and city and state, and they would have to be the ones. But our role in my mind is I would say like a field general to support them, to get the information they need, and explore other options for them, and then they're to decide which way they're going to go with that, if they can. And obviously, the situation may be budget cuts, and we may have to make some tough decisions should that situation occur. Again, been in that situation before.
Additional questions?
Mr. President, let me start off with one of your U.S. Steel questions. I take you back to when you first got employed, when they were superintendents. Did you know R.B. Dumas back in those days?
Yes, Bill Dumas. Yes, sir. I sure do.
Got a lot of respect for him.
Yes, sir.
Let me follow up on what you just said. Your role would change as a board member if the superintendent made a recommendation that you had previously decided that you didn't agree with. Just because the superintendent makes a recommendation that differs from you, I fully understand what you mean by support, but you're not going to change your views and try to adapt and accommodate that if you strongly feel the other way. How would you?
No, I would express my opinion to the superintendent, and again, I would be one of many board members or whatever, but I wouldn't change my opinion. But my point would be is I wouldn't come to a meeting of another group advocating that if that's the decision that the superintendent decided, because again, they're the leader of the organization, and I've worked for and had people work for me. I always sought people's opinion, and I actually solicited people to differ with me if they should, because if not, they're still going to carry that opinion. But yes, I would advocate for more funding, and I would explore the reasons why and lay those out. But the superintendent, again, that's their role. They're the leader of the organization. I guess I would say I'd have my say, but I wouldn't be a person that would be doing that outside the realm of the school board and a school board member or whatever. It's just a mutual respect that I would have for any leader.
Thank you.
Additional questions?
Yes. How would you deal with other critical issues outside the budget, and what would be your methodology for dealing with these critical issues that come to the school board?
Well, I think that I guess I would have to know more facts. I know what I know and what I read in the paper, but I always start by gathering all the facts or whatever, and you can list them off: rezoning, do we build another school, and those things. And And I approach that kind of just like I approach all other business, collect the facts and advocate a course of action along with my fellow board members to say that this is how we would attack this problem. I'm not trying to avoid your question, but my point is I don't know everything about exactly how we would fix the rezoning or busing or those type of things, but I really think it starts with addressing the superintendent and then getting together with them, because they're going to be someone that may or may not be, and I'm not familiar with the applicants, but may or may not be familiar with Hoover at the time. I would assume that they would have probably done a little homework, but I've always addressed an issue, whether it be you've got a workforce cut at US Steel, or you've got to cut your budget, or you've got to develop a capital plan, gather all the facts, gather input from parties that are relevant to the decision, and then put forth what you think is your best suggestion as far as the path forward, and then advocate that position as loudly and strongly as you can. And again, along with other people that are involved in the process and whatever. So, again, it's one of those things is I don't know enough about all the details yet and not privy to all the things that occurred. I only know what I read and what I've gotten from other people in other parts of the school district and things like that. But I think you just have to be, as I always say, kill them with facts or whatever. You have to gather data and make sure that, and gather people's opinions, by the way, too. So I wanted to add that.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Quirk, what have you done, or how are you staying abreast with the developing technology as it applies to the students and the school systems?
Well, my three daughters and my one in college are dragging me through that or whatever, so I've had to keep up with them and with all the core curriculum and the ELI and those type of things. I guess I've been on the front lines of it or whatever, and then I spend quite a bit of time in the schools, and I don't claim to be an expert, but I'm familiar with the Chromebook initiative and those type of things, and the IXL learning and things like that. So I guess I'm learning via hands-on technology as opposed to reading about it or whatever. I experience it pretty much every week and every night. So,
Mr. President, sir, have you been involved in any organizations with the school system, such as the PTO? Have you volunteered, or have you attended any school board meetings?
Yes, sir. We've always been a member of the PTO, and I volunteer regularly at the Deer Valley Library, and I spend quite a bit of time out there helping out in the classroom. And again, I have the luxury and pleasure and blessing to have the time to do that. So I've done everything from watching the children at lunch, so the teachers can have a meeting. But Ms. Lieber at the library is not hesitant about calling me, and I think that's been a learning experience for me when you talk about different, and back early in my career, I was a professional in HR or a PHR. I studied different learning styles, but I think having a father there, and that's what Ms. Lieber, it's her idea. I don't want to claim for it to be my idea, but seeing the way that the children react to it, I guess a dad in a, I don't want to say a classroom setting, but in a learning setting has really helped me quite a bit. And I'm a member of the Hoover Softball Association, so that's not really a school function, but I get to meet a lot of the girls, and I get to be involved in a lot of school activities, and go on field trips and freeze at Camp McDowell in the middle of February, whatever. So
You have been involved, okay?
I have, yes, sir. Every opportunity, and they know that my time is always at their disposal, whatever. So.
Right.
Mr. President, Mr. Quirk, you had previously communicated to the city that it seems the needs and support of the school district remain vague and lacking in detail. Could you quantify that a little bit?
Well, and again, I know you guys all know me, and you know how I feel about the budget, but I guess my frustration is that, and I don't want this to all be about the budget because as a school board member, you've got a lot of other issues, but I always deal in, what are the financial criteria used to establish a statement? And that's what I felt was sort of vague and lacking. I understand about the reserves, and I apologize for not having them on the end of my tongue. But in other words, what are the facts that back up the fact that the school is adequately funded? Is it a basis compared to, and then I'm just picking names, Vestavia or Monbrook, spending per school, what do other schools, that's sort of what I was looking for. In other words, okay, we base this decision on, you know, something relative to this, relative to what Hoover has to spend, relative to what other school districts spend, what we think, and what are the details in the financial statements as far as debt ratios, those type of things. You know, that's kind of what I meant by that. In other words, okay, if they're adequately funded, what is the basis for a statement like that? Whatever. So.
Additional questions from council? Hearing none, we appreciate your application.
Okay. Thank you
Very
for your
much,
time.
sir.
I was waiting for the gavel.